The world has changed in many ways over the past 10 years. When we think of the past 10 years, it does not seem like that long ago. 10 years ago, I was getting ready to go into high school, and it only seems like yesterday. However, there have been a lot of changes in the world over the last 10 years. Social changes over these past few years has had an impact on the world in many ways. We see this we see this impact in many different ways. We can see it in our physical environment, population, new inventions, how different elements of culture spread, which is known as diffusion in mass media. There are many ways that social impact and physical environment around us. I recently read an article about the deforestation of the Amazon region in Brazil. According to the study, deforestation was an all-time 10-year high in this region. The article discussed that the reason for this was due to political and economic reasons. However, this is not the only reason for deforestation. A lot of deforestation takes place because of the constant increase in population growth. Where there are more people, there is a great demand on space and more need for natural resources. This is one way that social changes over the past 10 years has impacted the physical environment in which we live. Population growth is happening at rapid rates around the world. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the world's population has grown over the past decade by a rate of 10.7%. This may not sound like a large percent rate, but that means that there are almost 1 billion more people in the world over the past 10 years. We see this growth impacting almost everywhere we look. I have personally seen this happening in the small town in which I have lived for the past 10 years. The growth in population affects lots of different aspects of life on a daily basis. Even simple things like traffic and the number of people in public areas are affected by population growth. Society has also an impact on innovation. As society changes and grows, so the demand for greater innovation. Growth in societies presents many challenges, and these challenges require innovative thinking to solve the challenges. Many studies show that innovation is one of the key factors to consider so that societies can experience sustainable growth that offer fair opportunities for everyone. A simple thing like how the internet is accessed and used in society is a big factor. More innovative ways for giving more people access to the internet are important to help more people participate in work, interaction with others, and learning. Societies have changed a lot over the past decade, and this has a direct influence on how different elements of society are transferred from one place to another. A simple example of diffusion is how culture impacts society and different culture groups grow within a society. One example of this is the rapid growth of Hispanic population in the South over the past decade. This can be seen in something as simple as bilingual information signs in many areas of the South in the United States. The way society has changed over the past 10 years has had a huge impact on mass media. The trend towards social media over the past 10 years has changed the way people communicate and access news. The media outlets are able to get news out to people quicker than ever. The world responds to news quickly because it is available to people everywhere almost immediately. Closely related to the issue of mass media is the information revolution. The, the, per, the I personally believe that society is actually being fed too much information, and most people cannot ever process half the information they are exposed to. I think that it leads to a lot of issues. People are worried about about many things that are outside of their control. They are exposed to so much information that it is almost overwhelming at times. I think this has a negative effect on people. I also think that the concept of misinformation is having a negative effect on society. It is very difficult to know if information is trustworthy or not. This can be very scary and leads to a lot of insecurity in people. On the positive side, I believe access to more information quicker can be very helpful at times. It is difficult to say how all these factors will play out in the future. I think modernization has had a big impact on developing nations. I have not personally experienced it a lot because I have not traveled to many developing nations, but from what I hear, modernization has influenced even some of the most underdeveloped places in the world. Probably one of the biggest things that modernization has brought to these places is access to the internet. People living in very rural and undeveloped areas of the world can access the internet and be a part of the outside world just like anyone else. There are many other ways that modernization impacts underdeveloped countries. The role of women in the workplace is one example of how modernization has impacted developing countries. All the ideals of the West are not always the best thing for every culture. There is no doubt that modernization has had a big impact on many developing countries. There have been many social movements throughout history. I will just speak about a couple in this video. The Civil Rights Movement in 1960s was a very important social movement in history. It served it served to bring about equal rights for black people, specifically in America, but it also had a far-reaching impact around the world. This social movement was critical to change the injustices that were occurring against blacks. Another social movement that occurred was the women's right to vote movement in the early 20th century. The movement was most influential in America and England. As a result of this movement, women gained the right to vote and a rightful place within the social structure. A third, a third social movement that is more modern is the LGBT rights movement. This is a movement that is having a rapid and deep impact on societies around the world. It is important for people to know that they have equal rights regardless of their sexual orientation, but I believe that the future of this movement is unknown and the ultimate effect of it on society has yet to be seen.